Gabe Miller here. I want to personally thank you for checking out our YouTube channel, and I also want to encourage you to click the subscribe button so that you can stay current with all of our content on here. You can connect with us also on our website at yourimpactchurch.com and on all of our social media outlets at Your Impact Church. I hope this message encourages you, inspires you, and challenges you. Let's jump into the message.
Well, good morning. Is anybody excited to be at church today? Come on, anybody excited? We want to welcome those of you that are joining us online. We are excited that you're with us as well. And I want to mention just a few things really quick, and then we're going to get into part 3 of our series. You heard a couple of these in the announcements in the Impact News segment just a minute ago. And we are planning tentatively. We're working toward hopefully being able to get back into kids ministry for your kids and youth ministry for your students. And here's what we're asking. A lot of you have served in iKids in some capacity. You were a teacher, you were a helper, something like that. We are really just kind of, people are kind of easing back into church and, doing all of these things. And so we are trying to build a team for iKids, for our kids ministry. And so we want to ask you unapologetically to consider joining our kids team. And so if you want to be a teacher, you want to be an assistant, man, it's going to be an incredible opportunity, I promise you, for you to pour into the lives of the next generation and invest in them. Come on, we not only need to be, we've talked about this before, but being poured into and blessed by God, we need to be giving out as well. I want to have you know that a body of water that has no way that water is flowing out of it gets nasty. Let me just tell you, you don't want to get nasty. You don't want to be a nasty body of water. So God is blessing you. God is equipping you. God has put things on your heart, and we want to encourage you to serve and be a blessing through that and allow that to flow out of you. And so if you would consider that, we would greatly appreciate it. Want to also say congratulations to all of the graduates. This has been a very interesting end. Yes, it's been a very interesting end to the school year, and we have had people that have graduated many different things, graduated from middle school, high school, graduated from nursing school. We've had lots of people that have graduated from different things, and so we want to just honor you. We're so thankful for just your hard work and everything that you put into it, and so we wanted to congratulate you today, even though it's been a strange end to this semester. We know that hopefully you know that all that hard work has not gone in vain, and I believe that God's going to bless you. We're just praying that over you in whatever season of life you're in. And then the last thing really quickly is grow groups beginning to meet back in person for our summer semester June the 7th. So starting not this week, but next week. This coming week, hopefully within the next day or two, you'll be able to go on the website and see the different group options for the summer semester, and we're going to begin to gather back together. We believe that we need community together, and we need to be doing life together. We need to be growing together, and so I want to encourage you, get in a group. I know during this season, some of you have been in groups. We've been doing them through Zoom technology and all of that, and we're excited to get back together in person and do life together, grow together, study the Word together. Believe it's going to be a great time, so keep that in mind. One thing to mention, just so you are fully aware, during the summer semester, there will not be childcare available, and so we're going to wait until hopefully in the fall semester, we'll have all of that set back up. We're not going to do childcare right now. We just believe that it's important for us to continue in that way during this season. And so we know that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult, but we encourage you, if you want to find somebody to watch your kids so that you can be in a group, if you want to bring your kids, if it's a group that we're leading, come on, you can just bring your kids, and we'd be happy to have our kids entertain your kids. Come on, somebody. No, if my kids were here, they may think differently. I don't know. We've been in a series that we have called See the New. See the New. And this is kind of the idea behind the series, is that God doesn't desire for us to go back to normal. He wants us to step into the new thing that he wants to do. And our theme verse for this series, if you've been with us, is in Isaiah chapter 43, verses 18 and 19. It says, "The Lord says, forget what happened before and do not think about the past. Look at the new thing I am going to do. It has already happened. Don't you see it? I will make a road in the desert and rivers in the dry land. In other words, God is speaking to his people in this passage, and he says, listen, I know that you know this is what I did for you in the past. This is how, I parted the sea and you walked across. I've done great things and defeated your enemies and all of this, but I don't want you to get so focused on what you knew that you miss the new thing that I'm trying to do, because I want to do something new. I want to do something powerful that maybe you've never seen before. And God desires to do amazing, powerful things through us, but we cannot be so focused on the past or the way that we thought that it would happen. Come on, anybody thought that 2020 would look a little bit different than what it has looked? We can't be so focused on that we miss out on the thing that God's trying to take us into. And so we've talked about in part 1 that it's an upgrade. Last week in part 2, we talked about being willing for whatever, willing in the deficit, willing in trials, willing in success. And I want to encourage you, like I do every week, if you've missed any one of these messages in this series, I believe it'll help you. It'll be encouraging to you. Go back on the podcast, check them out. That'll be super helpful to you, we believe. And today, as we continue our series, I want to talk to you on this subject. I've titled the message, really it's 2 titles. I liked one title, and then I thought, well, we'll just put both titles in there because they both kind of go with what we're talking about today. But it's called Seize the Moment. You were made for this. Seize the moment. You were made for this. Now, I'm curious if have you ever found yourself in a situation, you were at, like, let's say you were at the grocery store, or you were somewhere and you felt the prompting of the Holy Spirit in that moment for you to do something. There was some action for you to take. There was somebody for you to talk to. There was somebody that you just felt like, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to pay for that. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to just go over there and pray for them. I don't know why, but I'm just supposed to go over there and do that in the moment. Ask how they're doing, or buy a meal and take it to them. Send an encouraging text. Come on, you ever woke up in the morning, you just thought, man, I don't know why, but I just feel like I need to text this person and just say, hey, praying for you, love you, want to be an encouragement to you. I think that if we're paying attention to the Holy Spirit, there are a lot of those moments and opportunities that we have the opportunity in our lives to be a part of, that God is wanting to use us in those, even some of those small ways, what we would consider small ways. And I'm curious also, if you found yourself, driving down the road at the grocery store in a conversation and you felt that prompting, have you ever had another conversation with God after you felt the prompting to do that thing? You ever had another moment, it's like all of a sudden you feel this prompting and it's like, you should really do this. And you're like, oh, really? And then you have this other conversation with God that's like, God, if that's you, give me a sign. Come on, anybody ever ask for a sign before? Not that there's anything wrong. If that's you, let the next 3 lights turn green, and then I'll turn back around and go give that person $20 or whatever. And we have this other conversation with God, right? God, I want to be helpful, but I'm in a hurry. I'm running late for work. Could it be possible that you're running late for work because you didn't get up in time, but if you'd have got up when your alarm went off, God would have been able to use you in the way that he wanted to use you, but you missed the moment because of maybe some kind of lack of discipline in your life? I know I'm kind of preaching hard already, and There are moments and opportunities in life, or you said something like this, well, God, I'm not sure how they will receive it. Felt like, well, I'm supposed to go pray for that person. I'm supposed to go say something to them. God, I'm just not sure how they're going to take it. I'm just not sure if they're even a Christian. I'm not sure if this is even the right thing to do. I'm not sure how that's going to be received. And I think that sometimes we have good intentions as believers, as Christians, as followers of Jesus, but we struggle to seize the moment. We don't always seize the moment. And I love this saying that I heard a while back, and I've mentioned this before, but it goes like this. It says, the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized within the lifetime of the opportunity. There are certain opportunities that will only present themselves in that moment. And if you miss it, you missed it. If you don't do it in the moment, there may never be another opportunity for you to do it. And there was a reason why God was putting it on your heart right then to do it. And as we step into new things and new blessing and new favor and new direction, new opportunities, I believe that God desires for our obedience in the moment instead of delayed obedience or disobedience. I was reminded of a story that I've told before. If you've heard this before, just bear with me. There was this story that I heard. I believe it was at a conference, and uh, the guy was talking about how somebody went through this drive-through. It was just some fast food restaurant. They went through the drive-through and they pulled up, and for some reason they felt prompted to pay for the person's meal behind them. And so they're at the window and they're like, I don't do this all the time, but hey, I want to pay for the person's meal that's behind me. And they happen to have an invite card to the church that they were a part of. And they said, hey, will you just give them this invite card? Just want them to know that God loves them, and I want to pay for their meal. And said, okay, it was like probably $7 or $8, something like that. Just one lady behind them. And she comes up to the window. They drive off. She comes up to the window, and they give her food and drink and all of this. And they said, oh, and by the way, the person that just left paid for your meal. And they left this card, wanted me to give this card to you. And it's, an invite to where they go to church, to the church that they're a part of. And she just broke down crying. Just broke down in the moment crying. Drove home. Come to find out weeks later, somehow this all came back around. And this lady is now attending the church that she got the invite card to, has given her life to Jesus. And she shares her story as to what was going on that day. And the reality was that she was in a place that day to where life had gotten so hard and she didn't really know what to do, that she had planned to get this meal, eat this meal, and I'm going to go home and I'm going to take my life today. And she said in her testimony, she said, because this one person paid $7.83 and left a little card. In that moment, I broke down crying because I knew immediately that God saw me. And he used one person to pay $7 or $8 in that moment. Can you imagine if that person had just ignored that and just drove off? Well, I don't really understand that. I don't really get that. I'm just going to, it's not really that big of a deal. What might have happened? What was changed in a person's life because of immediate obedience, because of seizing the moment, in the moment, and not letting it pass you by? And I don't tell that story to make you feel bad for all the times that you haven't seized the moment or you haven't been obedient right in the moment, in the middle of the opportunity. But I want you to know that story as a way that we never know what God's doing behind the scenes. You don't know what God's doing in the person that's sitting behind you right now. And during worship, you just felt like you were supposed to turn around and say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm praying for you. You just felt like, well, after church today, I just feel like I'm supposed to just invite them to go to lunch. Maybe they have something that they're needing to share with somebody they haven't been able to share with somebody. You don't know, and I don't know what God's doing behind the scenes whenever we feel prompted to do something. God could have been working on somebody for 6 months, and in a moment, he looks at you and says, this is your moment. If you'll do this right now, you have no idea what I'm about to do. And we think that, well, this is just a moment. And God says, I've been working on their heart for 6 months. And I put them in this position to meet you today so that I could get you to tell them this so that it'll change everything. We don't know what God is doing. We may not always understand it. And when I think about seizing the moment, there's a particular story in the Bible that comes to mind. And it's the story of Esther. And I don't know if you've ever read the book of Esther. It's not a long book. I would encourage you to read it. It's a really good story. But before we read, we're going to read about 17 verses. Before we get there, I want to kind of give you some background as to what's going on before we get to these verses, because it kind of helps it make sense. But the current queen, so there's a king in this land. The current queen has refused to do what the king wanted her to do. And so he decides, we're getting a new queen. Come on, somebody. We're just getting a new queen because she's not doing and responding to what I wanted her to do. And so, they bring in all of these women, and Esther is one of the women that they bring in, and they're preparing them. If you read the story, they're preparing them. They're like, putting stuff on their skin for weeks, so that their skin looks a certain way, and doing all this stuff to get them prepared for the king. And the king decides, after Esther comes in, he decides, wow, I really like her. I'm going to make her the new queen. And so there's another guy in the story. His name is Mordecai. And this is Esther's cousin. And he has been taking care of Esther. So Esther goes in. The king chooses her. She is now going to be the new queen. And Mordecai overhears some guys talking about plotting how they can kill the king. Are you with me? Esther's now the new queen. Mordecai is walking through, and he hears some guys talking about they're planning how they can kill the king. He goes and tells Esther. Esther goes and tells the king. The king has these guys killed. And then the king promotes a man named Haman. And everybody's bowing down to Haman. Mordecai refuses to bow down to Haman. And so Haman goes to the king and he says, hey, here's what I want you to do. Here's what I think we should do. There are a lot of Jewish people around here. Mordecai's a Jew. He's part of the Jewish people. Esther's a part of the Jewish people. We should have them killed. And the king gives permission. And so they are devising a plan, and they are going to kill all of the Jewish people that are there. And this is where we pick it up in Esther chapter 4. So Mordecai hears about what is going to happen. And this is what the Bible says. When Mordecai heard about all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on rough cloth and ashes, and went out into the city crying loudly and painfully. But Mordecai went only as far as the king's gate, because no one was allowed to enter that gate dressed in rough cloth. As the king's order reached every area, there was great sadness and loud crying among the Jewish people, right? Because they're all about to be done away with. They fasted and cried out loud, and many of them lay down on rough cloth and ashes to show how sad they were. When Esther's servant girls and eunuchs came to her and told her about Mordecai, she was very upset and afraid. She sent clothes to Mordecai to put on instead of the rough cloth, but he would not wear them. Then Esther called to Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, chosen by the king to serve her. Esther ordered him to find out what was bothering Mordecai and why. So Hathach went to Mordecai, who was in the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told Hathach everything that had happened to him. And he told Hathach about the amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the killing of the Jewish people. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the order to kill the Jewish people, which had been given in Susa. He wanted Hathach to show it to Esther and to tell her about it, and Mordecai told him to order Esther to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and to plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther everything Mordecai had said. Then Esther told Hathach to tell Mordecai, all the royal officers and people of the royal states know that no man or woman may go to the king in the inner courtyard without being called. There is only one law about this. Anyone who enters must be put to death unless the king holds out his gold scepter. Then that person may live. And I have not been called to go to the king for 30 days. Esther's message was given to Mordecai. Then Mordecai sent back word to Esther, just because you live in the king's palace, don't think that out of all the Jewish people, you alone will escape. If you keep quiet at this time, someone else will help and save the Jewish people. But you and your father's family will all die. And who knows, you may have been chosen queen for such a time as this. Then Esther sent this answer to Mordecai. Go and get all the Jewish people in Susa together. For my sake, fast. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, day and night. I and my servant girls will also fast. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I die, I die. So Mordecai went away and did everything Esther had told him to do. I want to talk to you about 3 things that I feel like the Lord wants us to know out of this story and talking about seizing the moment. 3 things about the moment that I think we need to know. And here's number 1, if you're taking notes, is that the moment may be unexpected. If you're looking for everything to always be planned out, I came today to tell somebody that the moment that you need to seize, the opportunity, it may be unexpected. It may not be what you had planned for. It may be unexpected. Esther, going back a couple of chapters, Esther chapter 2, verses 5 through 9. Now there was a Jewish man in the palace of Susa whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair. Jair was the son of Shimei, the son of Kish. Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin, which had been taken captive from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. They were part of the group taken into captivity with Jehoiachin, king of Judah. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, who had no father or mother. So Mordecai took care of her. Hadassah was also called Esther, and she had a very pretty figure and face. Mordecai had adopted her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. When the king's command and order had been heard, many girls had been brought to the palace in Susa and put under the care of Haggai. So they're looking for the new queen right now in this moment. Esther was also taken to the king's palace and put under the care of Haggai, who was in charge of the women. Esther pleased Haggai, and he liked her. So Haggai quickly began giving Esther her beauty treatments and special food. He gave her 7 servant girls chosen from the king's palace. Then he moved her and her 7 servant girls to the best part of the women's quarters. In this moment, when the queen at the time had decided, I'm not going to do what the king has said, and the king's like, hey, I'm going to look for a new queen, Esther did not anticipate being one of the girls that was brought in to be before the king. It was completely unexpected. I don't have a father and mother. I'm living with my cousin who has just decided to take care of me. We're a part of the people that are captive, that King Nebuchadnezzar took captive. And here we are, and we're serving, and we're doing what we need to do, and I'm one of the ones. But why in the world am I one of the ones that is being brought in and given beauty treatments and special food? Come on, somebody. We're going to make sure you look even more beautiful than what you did before. We're going to make sure you're eating all the right things. Why am I? This is completely unexpected. What if God has opportunities and moments waiting for you in the days and weeks to come that are going to be unexpected? What if over the next month God has some moment or some opportunity lined out for you that right now you have no idea it's coming? It's unexpected. It's an unexpected moment. Moments and opportunities that you didn't expect on your job. Moments and opportunities you didn't expect at the new job that you didn't know you would have a few months ago. Come on, somebody. And God has orchestrated things together for the good and for His purpose, even in a bad situation. And He's put you right where He wants you because there is a moment coming that's going to be unexpected to you, but it's not unexpected to God. Moments and opportunities that you didn't expect while you were going about your normal daily routine. Or moments and opportunities you didn't expect with your husband or your wife, or that you didn't expect with your children or your teenagers, or moments and opportunities you didn't expect to step up and serve in some way, or to be a blessing to somebody in the community, or to be a blessing in some ministry that God is wanting you to step into and begin serving in. What if there are moments and opportunities that are in your future, in the new thing that God is trying to do, that you've thought, well, this has been terrible, this has been awful, look at where we're at now, I don't know how we're going to get out of this, I don't know what's coming next, I don't know what the next step is, I don't know what the next phase is, I don't know where I'm going to get another job, and God says, listen, I'm working it all together for the good of those who love me and are called according to my purpose for them, and God says, I've got a purpose for you, and if you'll just lean into me, I've got moments and opportunities, but here's the catch, you've got to seize the moment when it comes. Because some moments and opportunities don't come back around again. And God's saying, I'm trying to position you. And don't get me wrong, God will give you second chances. But there are some things that God is trying to do and that God has been orchestrating together, and He's needing your immediate obedience, not for your understanding. I'm going to say that again. God is needing you to obey, not have to understand it all. You may not understand it all. But you've got to seize the moment, and the moment may be unexpected. Esther's people were people who had been taken captive, and now she's possibly going to be the next queen. It was unexpected. And we can't be so consumed with our own agendas that we don't see the opportunity or the moment when God provides it. We can't be so consumed with what we want and what we desire and what we have as our 5-year plan and what we have as this and what we thought 2020 was going to look like and what we thought that we miss out on the opportunity that God is trying to present to us on the other side of all of this, that God has been working together. As a follower of Jesus, we have to learn to expect the unexpected, because we never know when God may present a moment or an opportunity in our lives. And we have to be ready to seize the moment. So the moment may be unexpected. Here's number 2. The moment may seem uncomfortable. Anybody ever felt uncomfortable when you felt prompted to do something? We look back, Esther chapter 4, we just read this a minute ago, verses 6 through 11. So Hathach went to Mordecai, who was in the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told Hathach everything that had happened to him, and he told Hathach about the amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the killing of the Jewish people. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the order to kill the Jewish people, which had been given in Susa. He wanted Hathach to show it to Esther and to tell her about it. And Mordecai told him to order Esther to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and to plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther everything Mordecai had said. Then Esther told Hathach to tell Mordecai, and here it is, all the royal officers and people of the royal states know, they know this. We should know this, that no man or woman may go to the king in the inner court without being called. You're telling me to go in there without being called? You're telling me to step into a moment that I was not invited into? That I can actually lose my life over? And this is what you're calling me to do? There is only one law about this. Anyone who enters must be put to death unless the king holds out his gold scepter. Then that person may live. And I have not been, listen, she's telling him, this is the way it works. And I have not been called to go see the king for 30 days. So you're asking me to do something that could cost me my life because I have not, this is not how it operates. Come on, you ever had that conversation with God before? We're trying to tell God, the Holy Spirit has prompted us to do something. We're like, God, this is not how it works. You don't ask me to go up to somebody in Walmart. You don't ask me whenever I have been furloughed for 3 weeks. You don't ask me to pay for somebody else's groceries at the grocery store. Come on, somebody. This is not how it works, God. This is uncomfortable. Don't you know that I am an introverted person? And you are asking me to walk over there and pray for that person that I have talked to one time in my entire life? They're going to think I'm crazy. It's uncomfortable. But how many of you know that sometimes the moment that God ordains for you that you need to grab a hold of and seize is not going to be comfortable? It's not going to always be comfortable. I think about some of the things that we think of in the conversations we have with God about how it's not supposed to be like this, and this isn't what I thought this moment would look like. It's uncomfortable. And this isn't what I thought this marriage would look like. It's uncomfortable. This isn't what I thought this job would look like. This isn't what I thought being a Christian would look like, and it's uncomfortable. And I don't believe that God has called us necessarily to comfort. I think that we want comfort, but God provides opportunities sometimes that are uncomfortable. Jesus' moment to give his life for us wasn't comfortable, but his prayer was not for his will to be done, but the Father's will to be done. I wonder if there's anybody at church today or anybody watching online that would be willing to say, you know what, this may be uncomfortable, but not my will, but your will. I know this was my plan, but I want your plan. I know this was my direction that I thought I was supposed to go, but if you're asking me to go, this way a little bit, then I'll go that way a little bit. It's not always going to be comfortable. We can say it this way: what if following Jesus wasn't meant to be comfortable, but a willingness to seize the moment and the opportunity? What if following Jesus, I can't think of anywhere in the Bible where Jesus says, "Come follow me and I'll make you comfortable. Come follow me and I'll show you how to fish for people. Come follow me and you're going to have to take up your cross and be my disciple. Come follow me and there's probably going to be some things I'm going to ask you to do that are going to make you uncomfortable, but if you'll just trust me, it's all within my perfect will and I'm going to work it all out." But it's not necessarily about comfort. We want comfort. God wants obedience. He wants us to seize the moment. And here's number 3. Point number 3 is perhaps you were made for this moment. Could it be that what you're trying to avoid in this moment, this is the moment that you were made for? Could it be that you have made it through COVID-19 and some things have been shaken up in our world? Could it be that you were meant to live right now? Could it be that God knew what was going to happen and knew that you were going to be on the other side and knew what his plan for you was and knew how he was going to use you and the moments and opportunities he was going to give you on the other side of all this? Could it be that God knows everything? Perhaps you were made for this. Perhaps the reason that you are sitting here, you are alive today, that you have the family you have today, you have the job you have today, is perhaps you were made for this moment. Maybe you were made for this moment. We read it in verses 12 through 14. Esther's message was given to Mordecai. Then Mordecai sent back word to Esther. Just because you live in the king's palace, don't think out of all the Jewish people you alone will escape. If you keep quiet at this time, someone else will help and save the Jewish people, but you and your father's family will all die. And who knows? Who knows? You may have been chosen queen for this moment. You may have been chosen queen because God knew what was coming in the future and he needed you in the queen's position to do what he needed done to save these people. Could it be that what you have seen as something that is uncomfortable and something that was unexpected, that God was doing something to get you in position for the moment that was coming? That God was doing something behind the scenes to get you ready for the moment that was coming. Esther, I know that you said this isn't the way that it's supposed to be, but perhaps you were made for this moment. Perhaps you are queen for this reason. Perhaps this is your moment. I'll go ahead and bring the worship team back today. As we declared last week, I believe that God has chosen us for this moment. Perhaps you were made for this moment. Perhaps the reason that all of this has happened to you is for God to use you and use it in this moment. Perhaps you went through what you went through over the past 3 months because this is your moment. Perhaps the enemy, come on, somebody listen to me. Perhaps the enemy is coming at you so hard right now because this is the moment you were made for. We were talking about it earlier. You have a testimony. Could it be that the enemy does not want you to seize the moment and the opportunity? And so he is doing everything in his power to discourage you, to get you down, to put you in depression, to try to get you to shut your mouth. Because he knows what will happen if God's people decides, I'm going to seize the moment. This is my moment. I've got a story to tell. I've got a testimony to share. I've got Jesus to share with people. I've got to tell people that, hey, we made it through. I got to tell people that they can be encouraged. I got to tell people that you're looking for hope. I know where you can find it. Perhaps you were made for this moment. Will you stand today? There's another thing I want to mention really quick before we sing, and it's in verse 14. We just read it a minute ago. I don't know. Can you just throw verse 14 up there? Do we have that? I'm throwing you for a loop. Maybe. It may come up there. It says, if you keep quiet at this time, someone else will help and save the Jewish people. In other words, here's what I felt like God wanted me to share with you at the end of this. If you make the decision not to seize the moment, God can use somebody else. But here's the bad thing. If you don't seize the moment and the opportunity that God is providing for you, you will miss out on the miracle that God wanted to do through you. You will miss out on the faith that God wanted to stir in you and build up in you, and the encouragement that God wanted to give you through watching him do what he said he would do when you were obedient. God can do it through somebody else, but he wants to do it through you. And every person in here, we all have the same calling, but we also have unique callings. We have unique stories. We have unique testimonies of how we met Jesus. We have unique stories about how we gave our life to Jesus and what we came out of and what our past looked like and what God saved us from. And if you don't seize the moment, God can use somebody else, but then you miss out on the miracle that God wanted to do through you. The thing that God wanted to do through you. Perhaps you were made for this moment in history. Perhaps you were meant to be here in 2020. It's not a crazy coincidence. God's not surprised. He's trying to do something new, and He wants to use you. Just like we said in week 1, are you available? Are you available? Are you willing for whatever? Are you willing to seize the moment and realize, I was made for this. This is what I was created for. This is what I was created for. I want you to close your eyes and bow your heads for just a moment. I want to pray for you, but before I do that, I want to encourage you, just right where you are. With heads bowed, eyes closed, just ask the Holy Spirit, am I available? Is there something that you have been wanting me to do? Will you help me to share my testimony, to share my story, to be used by you? Come on, God, I pray right now over every person under the sound of my voice. I'm believing that there are people in this room that are making the decision today that no more will I delay in obedience. No more will I not obey. No more will I reason out why I shouldn't do what I feel like God is calling me to do. But I believe today in this room and watching online, there are people that are saying, you know what, I'm going to seize the moment. I'm going to seize the moment because I was made for this. I was placed on this earth, in this town, at this time, in this year, for a purpose. And I don't want to miss it. I don't want to be so distracted by what's going on around me that I miss it. I don't want to be so distracted by what I used to know or by what I'm frustrated with that I miss it. I don't want to miss the moment. So God, would you help us today as we leave this place, that we would be people that would seize the moment. And Lord, as we sing this last song today, I pray with voices lifted and hands lifted and hearts lifted to you, Lord, that we would worship you in this place, that we would celebrate you, and that you would receive all the praise, honor, and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.